Hey guys, welcome back to Bear Mountain Builds, and if you're new here, I'm Zach. And today we are building an absolute beast of a tool chest. Let me run you through it real quick. We are 63 inches tall, 45.5 inches wide, and 24 inches deep. This build's got a fully enclosed work platform that is 6 inches tall, 38 inches wide, and 21.25 inches deep, with integrated power, which makes it a great place for keeping all of your tool chargers. This tool chest comes with integrated clamp storage, which keeps all of your clamps organized and accessible. This build has 10 drawers. We have 3 1 3/4 inch drawers, which are perfect for your hand tools like your wrenches. We also have 3 4-inch drawers, 2 6 1/8 inch drawers, and 2 really deep 10 3/4 inch drawers, which are perfect for your bigger tools like your circular saw. That adds up to over 19 cubic feet of storage, so if you build this tool chest, you are probably going to run out of tools before you run out of space. In all honesty with you guys, I really have loved this build. This is probably my favorite build I've ever done on this channel, and I think you guys are really gonna like it. It may seem big, but it is fast and it's easy and it really is very simple. And to make it even better for you guys, I offer detailed plans on my website that include material lists, cut plans, and full assembly instructions. So you can check those out if you're interested. And with that, let's get this build started. To kick off this build, we're gonna be working on our frame. Our frame's gonna be entirely made out of 2x4s. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take these all over to our miter saw and get all the individual pieces cut to length. With that, the bones of this build are all cut out, ready to go. These are all of our 2x4 pieces. So moving on, we're gonna start putting our frame together. So the first thing for frame assembly is we're gonna be working on our legs. Now, our legs are made up of 2 pieces. We have our short leg board and we've got our long leg board. And then I've got 2 offcut blocks from when we were cutting all of our pieces out. We're gonna use these as spacers for our lap joint, so they're gonna go on either end of our short leg board. Then we can go ahead and throw some glue on our short leg. And with our glue down, we can go ahead and put our long leg board down on top of everything. And then we can use these blocks for spacing out so that our long leg board is centered over our short leg board. Usually for the first screw or 2, I like to take a 6-inch clamp and just hold it in place widthwise. I'm putting these screws in through the long board side. That way the screw heads won't be visible from the outside of the build. We'll do the same thing for the rest of our legs. We've got all of our legs done, so now we're going to start assembling the frame sides. So we've got 2 legs here ready to go, and we have our 2 long stretchers that are going to be mounting these 2 legs together. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to set both of these stretchers on either side, and I'm going to flip my first leg over because I'm going to apply glue to my lap joint area first. Now we're just going to go ahead and flip our leg over and set it down on our stretchers. These are lap joints. They're going to hold themselves pretty doggone square, but I always like to use a 90-degree clamp. If you got a tool, you might as well use it. And then we're just going to make sure that our stretchers are flush to the end of our leg, and then we can go ahead and pull this joint together with 2 screws. These aren't going to be load bearing, they're just there to actually keep that joint together. Then we'll do the same thing for our other end. So with that, this leg is attached to our stretchers. We're going to just rotate this around and do the same thing for our other leg. Our side frame is structural. It's not quite done yet, but I do want to show you the power of lap joints. Usually I'd show you on the table, but this is really tall. How lap joints work though is all of our forces that are going to be taken by the frame are transferring through wood and into the ground. Our hardware is taking zero force. All it's doing is just holding those joints together, which is why I really love lap joints. And they're really easy to do, so that's why I use them all the time. Now, with that out of the way, we're going to go ahead and finish off our side frame with just these short stretchers that are going to fit in between our two vertical legs. Those aren't going to be structural at all, but they do fill in some gaps, so they are very important. I'm mounting these short stretchers the same way with some glue and screws. And you might have noticed by now, but I'm making sure that all of my screws are going through the same side because this is the interior side of the frame. So that way, none of those heads are going to be visible. Beefy side frame number 1 is done, so let's go build another one. We're moving on to our cross pieces, but first we've got to drill out some pocket holes. For drilling out these pocket holes, I have all the locations for these in the plans, so you can check it out there. We've got all of our cross pieces drilled out with pocket holes, so now it's time to get these attached to our beefy side frames. So we're going to just start with one side frame down here. We've got our screw side up. This will be our top. That will be our bottom over there. Now, when it comes to attaching our cross pieces, what I like to do is I hang the corner off the table because I need to be able to clamp on it. And all I'm doing is throwing a little bit of glue on the end of my cross piece. And then I'll put it into position onto my side frame. When you're screwing in these pocket screws and you got glue in your joint, I found the boards can get a little squirrely. So I like to just add a couple clamps on here to keep it in place. So we're just going to use a 90-degree angle block with some 6-inch clamps just to help keep it locked in while we're screwing in. And we're just making sure that our cross piece is flush both to the top side and the back side of our frame. Having these two angle brackets are great because one, it locks it in place, but also, you know everything's square. Before we continue attaching cross pieces to our side frame here, we're going to go ahead and make a corner cross piece. All we're doing is just throwing a little bit of glue on our corner piece here. And then we'll just clamp it onto our other cross piece and secure it with some more pocket screws. Now that we've got our corner cross piece assembled, we can get this attached to our frame. So in this case, our wider side is going to be on the bottom of our frame and the thinner side will be on the back side of the frame. We only have one more bottom cross piece. As you can tell, I've dropped this down onto a lower table because it was getting pretty doggone high. It's still pretty doggone high, but I can still reach it at least. Now, moving on, we're going to attach our other side frame on here. Very easy. We're just going to go around, throw glue on each of these three sides, and then screw it in with some more pocket screws. Here's a tip for you guys. If you ever need to apply down force on a joint, but you don't have a clamp that's large enough to fit around your frame like this, all you're gonna do is you take another block. This is just a piece of cut off 2x4, attach it to your frame, and you're just gonna mount it in place using a bunch of clamps. So I've got 2 clamps holding it this direction, and then I've got 1 more clamp that's gonna hold it from the opposite direction. And with that block is locked in there, so it gives you a great place to clamp onto. So you can use an even bigger clamp and clamp it between the block and your frame, and now you've got downforce. Our frame is done and it is rock solid. Now we're moving on to adding some more structure to this. So all of our internal structure is going to be made out of 3/4 inch plywood, and we're going to start off with cutting out some sidewalls. I hate wrestling with a full sheet of plywood on my table saw, so instead I've got this set up on my assembly table and it's on top of 1.5 inches of foam. That way I can cut these sidewalls to length using my circular saw, and then I can take that cut piece over to the table saw and we'll cut it to final width. All right, we've got both of our sidewalls cut out, so now we're going to move on to installing these. As you can tell, I've got the whole frame tipped on its side. It's going to make the install much easier. So first things first, we're going to lay a glue bead all the way around. Now we can go ahead and drop our sidewall into place. Big thing to make sure when we're positioning this is we want it to be flush against the bottom side of our frame. So we're going to shove it all the way down against the bottom of the frame. And the other thing is we want to leave a 1/2 inch gap from the front of the face of the frame to our new sidewall. And I'm just going to do that using my spacers here. Makes it really fast and easy. And then we can just shove it into place and we'll just work our way down until we're good to go. So there we go. We are flush to the bottom of our frame and we have a 1/2 inch gap from the front of our face to our sidewall. So we can go ahead, get this mounted in place. We're just going to use some 18 gauge 1.5 inch brad nails. Now we can go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. Alrighty, we're back right side up and we've got both of our sidewalls mounted in place. Now we need to do a little bit more reinforcing on this frame since there's no cross bracing up here. So we're going to be doing that with our top platform piece, which we're going to cut out of some more 3/4 inch plywood. We've got our 2 platform pieces cut out. This is our back wall and our main platform. And I've already checked this out, but we've got a nice snug fit for our back wall and our platform pieces. So we're almost ready to get these installed, but first we're going to add some pocket holes to these and then we'll attach our back wall and our platform together. We've got all of our pocket holes drilled out. So before we actually mount these 2 pieces into our frame, we're going to mount them together first. We're going to take our main base platform and we're going to flip it right side up. We've got to remember that this is our back side because it's the side with our pocket holes, and we're going to keep that pointed towards ourselves. And then we're going to take our wall, which we know that the bottom of our wall is the side with the pocket holes, so this is the top side. We're going to flip that around and make sure that our bottom is on the bottom still. And it's going to be attached just like this. Now what we're going to do is we're going to throw our glue on here and then we're going to tack it in place first. So we got our glue on there. Now we're just going to tack this in place. This is just going to make the pocket screwing process a lot easier and faster for us. So we're just going to take this right to the edge, and I've got a corner clamp here just to help out and make sure that we are perfectly square. And we're just going to use some 18 gauge 1¼ brad nails to hold this in place. Now that we got this wall tacked in place, we're going to flip it over, and then we can just put in our pocket screws. Our glue is dry, so we can go ahead and get this put into place. Now I've already gone ahead and put in 4 clamps on each of the 4 corners. That's just going to hold this in place while we do our tracing. So we can go ahead and drop this thing in. Now it's in place, what we're going to do is just go along our side walls and trace out where this platform is going to be. That's going to just give us our mark for where we need to put our glue. With that, we can go ahead and pull this back out. With everything traced out, we're going to throw it on a glue bead inside those trace marks and along our back cross piece. I'm going ahead and smearing all this glue, but we just want to make sure it stays below the line because you're not going to see anything inside the drawer side. Now we can go ahead and put our platform in place, and we're just going to slide it in from the front back. Now we're just going to throw some 1¼ brad nails along the back wall, and then we'll put in those pocket screws along the bottom. All right, our top platform is installed, it's flush, it looks great, and it's rock solid. Now, we're moving on to our lower drawer divider and brace, which we're going to be cutting out of some more 3/4 inch plywood. We've got our center divider all cut out, have pocket holes already drilled on here. Also got our bottom cross piece cut out along with more pocket holes, and just like before, all the pocket hole locations will be in the plans. While I was cutting out our divider, I cut out a secondary placeholder divider because I already had it set on my table saw. So we're going to use these to set the height of our cross piece first. So we've got one over in the corner, and then we got the other one on the other side. And that's going to give us our spot just to hold that cross piece in place while we mount it in. So first what we're going to do is put this cross piece in place, and we're doing the same method that we did with our top platform and just trace it out so we know where to put our glue. Then we can just pull our cross piece out and trace our braces here. Now that I got everything traced out, just like before, we'll just lay down a glue bead and then brush it out so that we don't get too much splooging. Engineering term. Now that our cross piece is positioned, we're just going to mount it in place using some more 1¼ pocket screws. We've got our cross piece mounted in. Now we can go ahead and attach our divider. So I've already gone ahead and cut out some spacers out of just some spare 2x4s I have. The dimensions for these will be in the plans, but this is just going to help make sure our divider is dead center in this build. So we'll drop these in first. Now with those spacers, we're going to start adding our glue. So first we're going to put some glue down on our 2x4 cross pieces. And then we're going to just do a bead of glue on top of our divider. Everything's glued up, so we'll just go ahead and slide this in place. I'm just applying a little bit of up pressure on our cross piece so we can slide our divider in. We're just going to get this into final position. We just want to make sure that this divider is flush to the front of our cross piece. I think we're doing pretty good. That's good. Now what we're going to do first is we're going to run our pocket screws, which are 1 1/4 inch once again, into the bottom, and then we'll come back with our brad nailer and brad nail through the top of the divider. I've already traced a center line on here, so I know exactly where that divider is. We've got the bottom of the divider secured with the pocket screws. Now we're going to move up to our top. We're just going to be using the same spacers that we did before, but we're just going to hold them at the very top of the divider this time. And I brought over some clamps just to help hold everything in place while we do our brad nailing. Boom, cross piece in, divider in. With this, structure is done. So we are ready for drawers. Next up, we're going to cut out all the drawer sidewalls and bottoms out of 1/2 inch plywood. I'll see you in a bit. All right, after tons of cutting, we have all of our pieces for our drawers cut out. So this is all 10 drawers for the build. Now, to be honest with you, I really didn't like building drawers for quite a while, even when I started this YouTube channel, because it was just a very tedious task, and I'd get done with these projects and go, I'm never building drawers ever again. However, I have come up with a solution that is a really fast and simple method. So let me show you, but first, let's clear the deck. I've got all my drawer sidewalls laid out here. We've got 2 front and backs and then 2 sides. Now, with putting these together, my biggest issue was I just never had enough hand. I needed a second set just to keep these things together because it was like a house of cards. With these corner clamps that just slide on to your existing trigger clamps, makes the whole process really fast and easy. Let me show you. So what we're going to start off with is the front / back piece. They're both the same size. And we're just going to put some glue down the sides. So we've got glue on here. Now what we're going to do is just take one of our sidewalls. We're just going to put that right against the edge, and our sidewall is going to lap over our front wall. All you got to do, take corner clamp, it's a trigger clamp, so it's really easy and fast. Clamps right onto that corner, and boom, you've got a corner ready to go. Now we're going to just do the same thing on the other side. Take our corner clamp. And now we've got 2 joints already pinned in place, and then we can just do the same thing for the back side. And now we can just drop this one into place as well. And with that, the whole drawer is freestanding. I mean, technically you could just leave this and let the glue dry. But what I really like to do is I just take my 18 gauge brad nailer, and I've got 1 inch brad nails, and I'm just going to go through and pin these joints together. It's really fast and easy. If they're not quite perfectly square, I have an open hand now where I can actually force it back into square, brad nailed in place. You're good to go. You can even spin the drawer all the way around, nothing falls down, very fast and easy. Just like that, drawer's all put together. We just got to do a little bit of glue cleanup. Now that we got all of our sidewalls assembled, we can just go ahead and put on our bottom. First thing we're going to do is throw down a little bit more glue. Now what's great about this design is this bottom is going to just self-square the whole drawer for you. So you're just going to set this down on top of our sidewalls. And we're just going to get it roughly in position. I just flush this up on one side of the drawer, and then we'll pin that in place with some more brad nails. And every once in a while you might end up where your walls have a little bit of bow to them. Very easy to fix. You either push it in there so it's flush, or you can just hang it off the side a little bit and just apply a little bit of pressure with your hand and then tack it in place. With one of these in place, now we're just going to work our way around, making sure everything's flush, brad nailing it down, and then after that, the drawer's square. So with that, we've got one drawer done, ready to go. As you can tell, whole process fast and easy. These corner clamps have made me actually like doing drawers again. So if you're interested in these, I'll have a link down below. Plus, I now offer a storage box for them, so you can check that out as well. So with that, let's build 9 more drawers. All of our drawers put together. Whole process went really fast. It's very easy with those corner clamps. So we're moving on to installing our drawer slides. And I also have another great method for installing slides. It makes the process super fast and easy because we're not using jigs. All we're using are universal spacers. First thing when it comes to installing these sliders, we're just going to remove the drawer side. This is going to give us access to the holes so we can attach it really easily. How these spacers work, they're 2 inches long, 1 inch wide, and then the thickness is called out on them. All we're doing is we're just stacking everything off this bottom cross piece. That's going to make sure that all of our sliders are parallel to each other and to this bottom cross piece. We can go ahead and get our first slider installed. So we're just going to take a spacer, we're going to put it at the front, and then we're going to do another one at the rear. And then we can just take our slider and push it up against those spacers. That's going to make sure that our slider is parallel to our cross piece. And then I like to take one more spacer and just put it at the front side of the frame, and then just make sure that our slider is touching against that spacer, because that means our slider is flush with the front side of our frame. And with that, we can just go ahead and get this mounted in place using the included hardware. With our first slider in place, now here's the greatest part about this method, because we're going to just stack off of this slider instead. So we'll just take our spacers, lay them out for ourselves. Then we can take our next slider and just mount it in place. Flush it up against the front and screw it down. Super easy. Now we'll just keep working our way down, and I'll have all the dimensions for locating these sliders in the plans. All right, with that, first side is done. Sliders are installed. Goes really fast. However, before we flip this thing over, we're still going to install our sliders for our lower drawers. So we're going to get the upper one and the lower one. And then we're just doing the same method as usual, but we're going to be basing it off our 2x4 frame. One side done, one to go. With all the sliders in place, this cabinet's getting pretty doggone heavy, so before we get our drawers installed, I'm going to go ahead and mount up our caster wheels. Now, I always talk about this, but I use 4-inch caster wheels. They roll over everything in your shop, and these are the best bang for your buck I've ever found. Honestly, they're really great wheels, so if you're interested in these, I'll have them linked down below. Now let's get these mounted. We're mobile. Let's go put in some drawers. I already showed you guys the easiest way ever to install sliders, and now I'm going to show you the easiest way ever to install the drawers. And we're using the same tool, and that is more spacers. So for this, all you're doing, same stacking method, and we're going to be using our spacers to set the gap between our drawers or the drawer with the cross piece. So to start off, we're starting with our first drawer right here. Take 1/8-inch spacers, and I put 4 down, basically 1 for each corner. Now this is going to set our 1/8-inch gap between our cross piece and our bottom drawer. Before we put our drawer into place, I like to just take our sliders and disengage them from the soft close because you won't be able to do that once the drawer is inside. Now we can go ahead and just put our drawer in place on top of our spacers. So with our drawer in place, we have an 1/8-inch gap between our drawer and the cross piece. Now here's how you actually mount your sliders to the drawer. It's very easy. All you're going to do is just slowly pull out this drawer ever so little. You just want to make sure that your spacers are staying in between the drawer and the cross piece. And then we're just going to make sure that our sliders are flush to the front of our drawer. And just like before with the sliders, I just use another spacer off the front. Make sure it touches off, and you're good to go. Then we'll do that same thing on the other side. With our first set of screws in, now we're just going to do the same thing. We're just going to pull it out a little bit further. We just want to make sure that our spacers are staying underneath our drawer. That's going to keep everything parallel. Then we'll just do the same process to get our last set of screws in. Now we got all of our screws in, we can go ahead and pull out our spacers. Easy as that. We have one fully functional drawer. Now we can move on to the next one. It really does work really well. It's just so easy. First things first, we're going to drop our drawer into place. I'm not gonna lie, these are a perfect fit. Everything's ready to go, so it's time to install our spacers, and I'm just sliding in 3/8 inch worth of spacers between this first drawer and the next drawer. And that will set a 3/8 inch gap. And then from there, we're following pretty much the same process that we did before. We're going to keep this lower drawer in place because that's where it's most secure. You don't want to actually bring it out as you go because it's going to want to bend down. So we're just going to slide our top drawer out with our sliders. You're just going to want to watch out for your spacers as you're moving this drawer out because they do fall off into the drawer sometimes. You just got to put them back. From here, we're basically just doing the same movement that we did down below, just making sure our spacers stay where they're supposed to. From here, repeat the same process all the way out. Everything's going really smooth, but we're starting to get a little high, so before we drop this thing down onto the floor to finish off up here, we're going to get our lower drawers installed as well. For installing these lower drawers, the method is overall the same, but it's a little different because we have two 2x4s underneath this drawer as opposed to a single solid piece of plywood. So instead what we're doing is we're doing the same method of spacers in between the drawer and the 2x4s, and we're going to lock in our front screws. Then we're pulling the drawer all the way out, and we're going to put our spacers underneath the drawer at the back, and then we'll pin in the back screws. At that point, the drawer is locked in place, so you can go ahead and put in your third set of screws right in the middle. What a handy platform for tools. All the drawers are installed. Everything is truly buttery smooth. Telling you, the spacer stacking method for installing drawers couldn't be any easier. Highly recommend. So if you're interested in the spacers, I will have them linked down below. And next up, we're working on our lid, which we're going to cut out of some more 3/4 inch plywood. All right, we've got our lid cut to approximate size. Now we are at our final width. Now this is going to match the width of our drawer fronts because that's going to leave an 1/8 inch gap on both sides inside of our frame. You might notice that it is a little deep right now, and that's intentional because when we put our hinges on, we're going to have a little bit of gapping, a little bit of adjustments there, so I don't like to cut to final depth until we have our hinges installed. But once they are in, we'll cut it to be flush with these sidewalls, which means we got to go install some hinges. We're going to be using these full overlay cabinet hinges. They're super easy to install because I have these custom jigs. Let me show you how easy it is. To start off, we're going to be using the lid side guide that has our big 1 3/8 hole. We're going to just put this down, and I'm using a spacer to space it over by 2 inches, and then I'm using a second spacer just to make sure that that spacer is flush to the side of our lid. Then once we're in position, we're going to use the included screw hardware that comes with actually mounting our hinge in place, and we're just going to drive it through our hinge guide. And we have 2 holes right here that are just going to help us lock that hinge guide in place. So we're going to drill out our hole using an 1 3/8 Forstner bit. Once you think you're at the right depth, just do a check. So we'll just take this guide off. And then we just want to make sure that our hinge is flush to our lid, which it is. And if it's not, just put the guide back in place, drill it out a little bit further, and we're just going to secure this with the included hardware again. Then we'll just do the same thing for the other side. Both of our hinges are installed on our lid, so we're going to head back over to the tool chest and mount up the other side. I attach these plates for the hinges on here, and I've got these holes for the screws generally centered, but it doesn't need to be perfect. Now we can go ahead, put this down on top. I've got two 1/8 inch spacers. We're going to use this to center our top lid inside of our frame. With that all fully positioned, we're just going to go ahead and trace out the holes. We can go ahead and just take this lid completely off. With these holes traced, all they're doing is telling us where that hinge is side to side. It is not setting that height. To set that height, we need to use our other jig. All we're doing is just setting this jig up over those holes, and we just want to make sure that these holes on our jig line up side to side with the holes that we traced. We're just going to use our included hardware with the hinges again, and we'll just run those into the hole, and that's going to pre-drill our holes for attaching the hinge. Once you got the screws in there, you can just go ahead and pull them right out again. We've got our holes pre-drilled for the hinge, so we're just going to do the same thing on the other side. Now we can go ahead and mount up our lid. The lid and hinges go in super easy. If you guys are interested in these guides, I offer them on my website. And for this video, if you use this code and you get a double set or super set of spacers and you have this in your cart, you'll get them for free as well. I appreciate the support. Now let's go trim up our lid. All right, lid is all trimmed up. We are nice and flush off the front of our sidewalls. So with that, we're moving on to our drawer fronts. We're going to be making our drawer fronts out of more 1/2 inch sandy plywood, and just like before, I'm just going to strip this down to a bit smaller size, run it through the table saw, and cut everything to length on the miter saw. We've got all of our drawer fronts cut out. They're all sitting on the assembly table ready for install. So we're going to move on to getting these mounted in place using the same method as we've been for all of our drawers, and that's just stacking with spacers. Since we're using the stacking method that we've done throughout this build, we obviously need to start with the bottom. So for these two bottom drawers, we're going to do them a little differently than the rest of them. That's because we can't actively clamp these fronts in place. So instead, we're using the standard method of just applying a little bit of carpet tape onto our drawer fronts first. We have all of our drawer faces spaced out with an 1/8 inch gap in between each of them and an 1/8 inch gap between the drawer faces and our frame. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take 1/8 inch spacers and we're going to just put two right on the bottom on top of our frame. That's going to space our drawer face off the frame by 1/8 of an inch. And then we're going to have a third one ready to go that's going to space our drawer face from our side frame. And then we're just going to slowly tilt this in place and get it positioned for us with our spacer on the side here. And then everything is good to go, so we can just push it in place. We'll apply a little back pressure to our drawer, and it's stuck in place. We're just going to go ahead and get this clamped down as well. Now we can get it mounted in using number 8 7/8 inch screws, and I'm just putting one in each of the four corners. Now that we got our first one in, let's do the same thing on the other side. With these bottom two drawers done, we can go ahead and get rid of our carpet tape now because we have direct access to the top of our drawer. So in this case, all we're doing is taking our two 1/8 inch spacers, our next drawer front. We'll set it in place, do an 1/8 inch spacer on one side, 1/8 inch spacer on the other side, and then we can just do one more 1/8 inch spacer to space it out from the frame. And we're just going to maintain that on the right side all the way up because we have cut this to size so it is an 1/8 inch gap on the other side. Now we can go ahead and put our clamps on. Just like before, we're going to mount this in place using the same screws in the 4 corners. We're not going to worry about the middle too much because when we mount our handles, that's going to clamp the middle down too. From here, we can just continue our stack. Starting to max out my height, so we're going to put this back on the ground. For these really skinny drawers, you don't really have enough room to do a high and low corner, so I'm doing a screw on the far ends and then one more internal, and then you'll have your handle later. That's going to hold this whole front in place. For this top drawer, easiest method is to just pull out the lower drawer, pull out the top drawer, and then we'll just stack it on top of this drawer as it's pulled out. Then we'll use a spacer on this side to flush up the 2 drawer faces, and then we can go ahead and clamp it in place. Got all of our drawer fronts installed, looking really good. We still have to install the lid front, but we're not going to do that on here, so we're going to take our lid off and take it over to the assembly table. For assembling the front of the lid to the actual lid is relatively straightforward. Now all we've got here is our front, our lid, and then we have these 3 gussets that we've cut out of 2x4s. Those are just going to help reinforce our front. Now first things first, we're going to just put a little bit of glue on the front side of our lid. Now that we got glue on there, we can go ahead and put our front in place. And for this part, I'm not using any brad nails or hardware. I'm trying my best to not have anything on the front side of these drawers. So we are just going to use compression and some glue. Before we get this all clamped together, my lid does have a little bit of bowing in the middle. So to keep everything down, we're using our trusty 5-gallon bucket of sand, which every wood shop should have, because it's nice and heavy and it keeps wood where you want it. And it's really cheap too. So with the lid pushed into place, I'm just using this offcut of 3/4 inch. This is going to be an artificial straight edge for me. And I'm going to clamp that onto the front of our lid to keep everything in compression and everything tight against our actual lid. While everything's drying, we're going to add our gussets, and we're just going to put these on either end, and one in the middle. We'll glue and brad nail these in place, and that's just going to help hold this front square to our lid. And now we wait for everything to dry. Glue's all dried. I ended up adding some corner clamps on here just to hold everything square, but it seems to be working really well. All right, let's go mount it up. Lid fits really well, looks good from the front. Now this lid is pretty heavy, so we're gonna add some struts to it, and I'll have the locations for mounting these struts in the plans. Installing the brackets for these struts is a lot easier when you just take the whole lid off and set it on your table. So all we're doing is just taking tape measure. We're gonna measure the distance from the bottom of the lid where the hinges are to where we want the center line of our brackets to be. And then all I'm doing is taking some spacers to space our bracket over from the side of the lid. And then we can go ahead and drop in the screws that are included with the struts. And you just do the same thing on the other side. Super easy. Now we're going to go ahead and mount the ball studs on the frame. You don't have to do it from behind like this. I'm only over here so I don't cover up the camera. These struts are fairly forgiving, so as long as these studs are close, you should be good. These struts are super easy, they pop right on. With our struts installed, our lid is no longer going to take anybody's heads off, but it does want to pop up just a little bit, so we've got these little magnets that are just going to help keep this thing down. Now they're just going to go on the side over here, and we're going to use some spacers to help locate them. Mounting these magnets, super easy. I've mounted them flush to the sidewall. Now here's a really quick tip to locate these metal plates on your lid. All you do is take a bit of painter's tape. We're going to put it sticky side up over our magnet with a good amount left over up here. And then we can put our plate on top of our magnet. Get it relatively centered where you want it to sit. Now we can go ahead and drop our lid all the way down. And then we'll take our little tab of tape and wrap that around the lid so it's nice and stuck on there. Then we can just lift the lid back up. And our tape is dangling with the metal plate. You wrap that nice and tight along the lid. And that's exactly where you need to mount your metal plate. The lid is done, nice and secure. Now it's time to get some handles installed. Mounting up our handles, very straightforward. We're going to be centering our handles on the top 6 drawers, and then we're just going to match the distance from the top edge for this bottom drawer all the way down. That way you have good, easy access to your handle. Now I've already gone ahead and made a template. This marks the center line, and it shows our hole locations for our top drawers and then for all the rest of the drawers. To start, all we're going to do is take out our first drawer, use a tape measure, and we're just going to mark the center line on the drawer front. All right, from there we're going to take our template, we're going to flush the top of our template to the top of our drawer front, match up our center lines, and then we'll just clamp this in place. Now we can go ahead and drill out our holes. Then we can go ahead and attach our handles with the included hardware. We just repeat the same process for all our drawers. Boom. Most of the tool chests like this that you see at the big stores come with integrated power strips, which was really great for keeping your tool batteries charged. We're going to go ahead and get a hole cut out in the back wall and get this thing installed. Now I would say I recommend cutting out the hole in the back wall before you have it all installed inside the frame. In all honesty, I didn't really think about this until I'd already installed everything. So we're going to figure it out now. I'm just tracing out a template for where our hole is going to go. However, if you plan on adding your own power strip to your build, in the plans I'll have the actual location and size of that hole so you can cut it out well before this point. Now that we've got integrated power, it's time to finish this build off with slapping on our back panel. Before we can attach our back panel, we need to mount on our backer strips. Now I cut these out of 3/4 inch plywood, and all we're doing is we're going to just lay down a bead of glue. Then for putting these in place, we're just going to flush it up against the side of our frame and then push it so it's all the way back against our sidewall. That will leave our 1/4 inch gap for our back panel to nest into our frame. And then we can just mount it in place using some more 1 1/4 18 gauge brad nails. We're gonna do the same thing all the way around. It's finally time to attach the back panel. It's cut out of 1/4 inch plywood, and I've added a notch at the top just to fit around our cord up here. I'm attaching this using the same screws we use for attaching the fronts of our drawers. With our back panel on, this build is pretty much done, but I do have one final detail that is not necessary, but I think it does add to the build. We have this open space inside our frame over here. Now this is usable space still. It could be really great storage. You could put paint cans, you could do little hardware cubbies, but personally, I'm a woodworker. I have tons of clamps, so I'm always looking for a place to store clamps, so that's what I'm gonna do over here. I've just taken some remnants from our 2x4s from before, added some pocket holes to them, and we're just gonna drop these in and use that as clamp storage. With that, this build is done and it looks fantastic. Honestly, this is probably one of my most favorite builds I've ever done on this channel. It turned out really well. I mean, who doesn't love struts? Really looking forward to having this thing. It's not actually gonna be out in the shop. It's gonna be in my garage because I have plenty of garage tools, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm excited for it. Even my wife is excited for having this thing because she loves storage. This build is absolutely rock solid. I am looking forward to putting it into use. So as always, hit the subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all of my future videos. If you enjoyed this video or learned something new, hit the like button for me. Helps me out a ton. Really do appreciate it. And if you guys have any questions about the build, reach out to me through my email or leave a comment. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.